Okay. So. Fully surveyed this system. Oh, are we back at Eridani? Okay. Cool. I need to go and fully survey Eridani and any systems that I haven't fully surveyed. That I have, because again, I'm running on New Game Plus. I started on surveying everything before I did New Game Plus. Now I'm in New Game Plus, and I, you know, like, it's a whole thing. So I have done Eridani. I'm not 100% sure every goddamn system I've done. Ooh, isn't there... Oh. Do I have info on the star? That's just so dramatic, right? And I think it would probably be good... It probably would be good to just go on in a circle here. So we'll do... Kapteyn star... Oh, okay, there's not too much going on, right? It is just... 2 planets. Okay, well, let's see if we can finish... some systems, multiple systems today. Ooh. You know, I want to say, like, okay, so there are some things, and maybe I can just talk through some thoughts here, and maybe use this video as reference, but I'm never going to use a Starfield Galactic Guide video as a reference. I'm thinking about my own tabletop game and how vehicles work, because vehicles in sci-fi are really important, and in a lot of other things they also should be important. So yeah. So I definitely want... And I also, one thing I really want is a system that does not need to be... It needs to be translatable to a tabletop grid, right? But I also really would like a system where you have there is some mechanical understanding of... Are you, like, you know, if you have more movement speed than somebody and you don't want to fight somebody, you can physically outrun them, is the sort of premise there, right? You know, and it doesn't need to be, and like, well, like, ranged weapons, I love how ranged weapons work in Cyberpunk, but I love the idea, the concept, and like balancing handguns versus rifles versus everything with range tables and accuracies and stuff, and like, why would I ever want to use a handgun over a rifle? Well, handguns are better at closer range. And like, that's... I mean, is that how real life works? Not... It doesn't matter how real life works, it's a game. And that's... There's some elements of... I understand why they would make that thing. If they claimed it was realistic, there is some truth to it, but it's not a whole truth. Shooting something, like, at 5 yards with a rifle is not going to be difficult. Now, I mean, tracking something, just the tracking, with a handgun versus a rifle, yes, it's going to be easier to wave a handgun around. Theoretically, anyway, assuming that it's lower mass, right? But even then, for multiple reasons, I don't know. Like, there are some elements of like, oh, well, do you have more control over a rifle? Do you have more... are you, when you're tracking with a rifle versus a handgun, like, you know, I mean, like, what... You're naturally going to be using your body instead of, as opposed to your arm. So, like, and, like, which, I mean, in both situations, you could be using either your body, both, or either your arms, or, like, torso and hips and everything. But I digress. Like, ships need to be... There needs to be... your guns are... or, I'm sorry. Like, you have a smaller ship, you can outrun, you can outmaneuver this person. But the larger ships, I mean, obviously more health and stuff, but also, potentially, you know, like... Can you... well, if we're thinking of space combat here, right? Turrets? Can you outmaneuver a turret? Probably not. Probably not. But yeah. Ooh, we have traits to find. I apologize, I did not notice that. We are moving in an unfortunate direction to attempt to find that. And obviously ground vehicles, air vehicles, and again, I want this to be system agnostic, so, like, I can tell you right now, I definitely want to have a game where there's a steampunk fantasy, and as part of that, you, as part of that steampunk fantasy, there's magical, you know, magical mechanical mounts, cars, ye olde cars, trains, and motorcycles, or magical motorcycles, or equivalent thereofs, that kind of a thing. Definitely want that. Absolutely, absolutely. But, you know, it's also, you also have to keep in mind that, oh, well, there needs to be horses, and they need to interact and hopefully not be too terribly unbalanced. And you know, there's also definitely one part of my thought process is that, you do need to have some assumption that people are going to homebrew things, people are going to change things up. Like, my balance doesn't necessarily matter. If you're like for Cyberpunk, there's a bunch of things that I don't like. The fact that there's, assault rifles and sniper rifles do the same amount of damage. Like, make assault rifles, make battle rifles. Assault rifles do 46, make an entirely new class of thing that is basically assault rifles, but 5d6, and plus a few other restrictions. like how does full auto work with that, and you know, all that sort of thing. But I think that would just make things more interesting. Also, like the go-to weapon in Cyberpunk Red for a lot of people is just like would be a cheap assault rifle and an upgrade to a better assault rifle. And there's some reason to not have that, there's some reason to have that, but so, yeah. So yeah, that being said, also, well, we could also talk about. So I want to make a video game, but a tabletop RPG is the best way to. Is the thing that I myself can make, and I can balance things and do all that stuff by myself far more easy. I mean, I would appreciate a team of people if I would like to really make a tabletop RPG. But it's I think plausible to do a tabletop RPG by myself. A video, I mean, it's not impossible to make a video game by yourself. But you know, that's as far as I'm concerned, I cannot make a video game by myself. There are elements of so like I want my big thing is I want a character creation system that is extremely widely encompassing. And naturally, I would want to have that a sort of modular approach to. You know, that is maybe something that I should do, right? Or try and properly do as well, right? I want to have. I would love to have a system with modular ships, modular weapons. You know, I love the, at least in concept, the system for Starfield. If, you know, it's not necessarily exactly what I want. I'm not going to say that the thing I want is perfect either, but, I definitely would want there to be modules. My thought, I think maybe I've explained my thought process, but like, something more than Star Citizen, but it shouldn't be to the level of, it should not be to the level of, Space Engineers. Space Engineers, oh my god. I mean, that's awesome. It should be something where, like, you start with a frame, and then you have several components that you can. Several structural things. So you might have a frame that you start with, and I mean, to some degree, I would also want it to be more modular. Potentially, like, you have the hull of a ship. Well, I don't know. Potentially you can make the room, like, something like Starfield, but I would love to see, like, sort of bespoke exterior hulls, right? Or something. But yeah, so like you start with the frame, and the frame might be, well, I guess imagine an X-Wing. You have this sort of front section, this front pillar thing. Also, hang on. I don't know where this last thing is, and I should we'll just walk around, find it. Yeah, you have this front sort of neck section, you've got the cockpit, and then you've got this rear engine bay. So what if, imagine, if you will, that there were, like, you could slap, you know, some sides, some bodywork onto the side of things. Maybe that, maybe those body panels, hold weapons. Maybe they hold cargo. Maybe they hold, you know, extended fuel tanks. And, you know, the rear section. Maybe you want to have 4 wings. Maybe you want to have 4, you know, moving wings, like a, you know, traditional X-Wing. Maybe you want to have, you know, 1 giant wing. Maybe you want to have 7 wings. I don't know. And maybe, you know, you want to have VTOLs and you don't want to have any wings. And, you know, have that be a whole part of it. Maybe the front sections also have a mount for... Maybe they have a mount for more wings. Maybe they have a mount for, you know, a bunch of other things. There's a lot of ways to look at that. Of course, maybe the cockpit even, you know, is a... Oh, hey, yeah, there's you can have a single-seater, you can have a 2-seater, you can have a side-by-side or a front and back arrangement. Then when you get up to things that are larger, like, you know, yeah, maybe you want to have, and I would want it to be a, I guess maybe bespoke. But it needs to be, I mean, it would need to be a system that's, I guess at the end of the day, it's more like Fallout 4's weapons, right? Right? So, like, you have this main thing, and then you can modify that thing, and all the assets are, all of the assets are built around, like, you know, the hunting rifle. You have 5 hunting rifle stocks. You don't have 5 stocks for all guns. That kind of a thing. And of course, you know, at some point, I mean, like, weapons, the, like a power plant, like, those can be standardized. Radar, that can be standardized and have, like, you know, a bunch of things, but yeah. So, yeah, and I don't know. Definitely one of the things I'd also love to do. Depends on how in-depth I really want to get. But, science fantasy would be a system. But probably that's the one that needs the most work. In terms of vehicle balance, I think. I would probably want to do a very lighter system for cars and... sorry, got distracted there for a second. But yeah, things like... Basically, I want the spaceships to be really, really modular, and potentially have... like, a lot of different variants. Yeah. And I mean, to some degree it would also be cool to see with cars. In a more modern setting with like, but also, well, yes. Well, okay, maybe more visually speaking, because if you were looking at cars from the 1970s and you could just take fenders off of this car and put them onto this other car, I mean, like, the bodywork's not going to match up everywhere, but, and like that, might be to some people's taste, might not be to some people's tastes, depends. If I was going to make some fantastical things, I would, probably try and keep some standardized shapes, but there would, you know, you would be able to put a, I don't know what the term would be, a 15-degree arc circle thing. You could still put you could still put the thing onto something that's completely flat, or something that's, you know, has just a bunch of different shapes, just because why not? If it fits, it fits. But yeah, until next time, have a good day, great day even. Chowskis.